All right, combo time. I know many have been waiting so long for this moment. Here it is. I'm Norm, along with Mr. Endurance, Mike, coming off the post, straight hot into the Leafs Convo for the 11th of December, 2022. How
Hope I
about those
didn't.
Maple Leafs? 8-2 in their past 10. They haven't lost in regulation in a month. Incredible. 5-4 overtime win over the Calgary Flames last night. William Nylander's a superstar now. 5 points in that game. Mitch Marner extending his point streak to 22 games, picking up the game-winning goal just as overtime began. It's funny, the last time the Leafs lost, they lost in the same fashion early in overtime, so they got one back. And the head coach of the Calgary Flames, Daryl Sutter, saying that the loss of his team had more to do, or a lot to do, with the fact that the aura of Hockey Night in Canada and the Toronto Maple Leafs and everything that leans their way skewed the results. We
Yeah.
can mention that at some point, but I
No,
am
I'll
joined
mention it.
by Intro Mike. Good morning.
I'll mention it right off the top, Norm, because it particularly irked me when I saw that. And I've been watching the Leafs as a fan and as a reporter, for since I was, 8 years old.
Right.
And Daryl Sutter played from 1979 to 1987. I remember that stretch very vividly. This
Yeah.
is the Chuck Norris division. This is where
Right.
Chicago had Denny Savard and him and Tom Lysiak and Steve Larmer, and they were a perennial playoff team. I don't recall them walking into Maple Leaf Gardens and Boreas Salming and Norma Aubin getting every goddamn call in the world. This is Daryl Sutter playing damage control because his team had a number of careless penalties,
Yeah.
including Jonathan Huberdeau high-sticking Rasmus Sandin off the face-off.
He admitted that, Mike. Huberdeau admitted that. He knew it.
Well, I mean, it was there for God and everyone to see. I mean,
Right.
excuse me, Austin Matthews was bleeding from the lip when he got high stuck.
Yeah.
So, I mean, other than maybe the Joey Anderson one that where he got hit into the boards, that there was a board. I think it was a boarding call. That one was a little.
Right.
Other than that, I thought all the calls were. Now I'm biased because some people. Hey, my glasses are blue, but no, I'm sorry. I don't think it was. I don't think the referees cost the Calgary Flames the victory. I think it was carelessness on their part. They got good goaltending from Vladar. The Leafs had a number of chances.
Yep.
Matt Murray was not strong last night, but bouncing back or after that great performance in Dallas on Tuesday, he's forgiven.
Well, the Flames took on literally the hottest team in the league. And when you're hot and you're this deep into a run, you get some puck luck. You find ways to win. Are these good times going to continue for the Maple Leafs in terms of win after win after win? Absolutely not. They may go into next week and stink it up, but man, they've done some serious damage. As I've mentioned, no regulation losses in the past month. That is quite the run. So that means it's point, 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 point. They put themselves in position. Again, nipping at the heels of the Boston Bruins, even though the Bruins have a few games in hand. I think man to man, that would be a fantastic showdown. So I guess all's looking really good right now, Mike, especially when you look back to last week and you saw that the Leafs took on the Stars, a really good team, and the Kings, who you can't shake a stick at, 9-0 over the two games, shut them out, back-to-back shutouts, and it was Murray followed up by Samsonov. So the tandem coming through. When's the last time the Leafs put up back-to-back shutouts?
It was the Northern Division, and that was it was Campbell and either Hutchinson or Campbell and Anderson when they had. I think it was that stretch when they played Edmonton at Edmonton. They shut them out twice, which was
I remember
which was
that.
notable because it was McDavid. But
Yeah.
this is the thing. We've seen this act before, and I'm not saying this in a negative connotation,
Right.
but last November they lost one game in regulation. They were hot up until the season got shut down on December the 14th for up until the new year because of COVID spreading around, and
Right.
they wanted to get it under control. They were red hot.
Yeah.
They were the top team in the league, I believe, into that break. So
Wow.
we've seen
Is
this
it eerily similar, Mike?
Yeah, we've seen this before. And I'm not saying, but last year it wasn't sustainable. They had problem, after December, their goaltending got average.
Right.
Their offense kept going, and that was the reason why they won a ton of games. But now this year, their goaltending is above average. The question is injuries. The question is whether Murray can stay healthy.
Right.
Since that first situation early in the year, he's been great.
Yeah.
He didn't play great last night, but you're going to, no goaltender is going to play, even Carey Price had off games. So, but they're getting consistent goaltending on the most part from Samsonov and from Murray.
Yep.
They've weathered, and I think this is the most impressive thing. They have weathered this storm of the last 3 weeks without Morgan Rielly. They
Yep.
lost Morgan Rielly on November 21st.
Mm-hmm.
They have lost one game.
Oh, is that a coincidence?
No, it's because no, and then yes, no. I know what you're doing, but okay. Since they lost Morgan Rielly, since they were without TJ Brody and Jake Muzzin, they've had to play a different style. You saw it last night. Austin Matthews battling for pucks behind the goal line, helping out his defense. All the centers are doing that. They're playing more of a 5-man defensive unit. Now, last night, I think, you started to see, with Brody coming back, you started to see a little bit of the wanderlust come back in their game. Mitch Marner had a couple bad defensive giveaways. There were a couple of situations where they were playing fast and loose with the puck. When they get more of the guys that they trust back on the blue line, they figure they can take a few more chances.
Sure.
And that's when they make the bad giveaways. But right now, over the last month, they lost Brody November the 12th against Vancouver. He just came back, and they lost Rielly on November 21st. I mean, since with both of them out, they haven't lost a game in regulation.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, everything is coming up roses. The core four is playing fantastic. There are some things that are not great, and then we'll talk about that in a minute. But all in all, I mean, nobody can complain right now with the way this team is playing.
Well, the mosaic of the team is one of performance, of possibility, of pedigree. Just the alliteration's amazing, but it's in a position where it has no other choice but to continue an ascension with the entire crew, with half the crew, a crack staff, shorthanded. This is where we're at. The team has no opportunity to regress when you look at where it is in the chronology of this group trying to achieve, Mike. And again, it's eerily similar the way the ebbs and flows have gone this season when you compare to the past seasons. There's encouragement in knowing that the Leafs are on track, and if all goes according to plan and it's mimics what we've seen, it'll be one of the best teams in the league vying for the President's Trophy. It's just what happens when you cross the threshold into the playoffs. But everything that happens right now, win, lose, or draw, is a setup for the dance.
Yes.
And the Leafs cannot afford, as a group, this era cannot afford to take any steps back or regress. It's about getting back to that point where the team can start to create a serious legacy and do that, all guns firing, hitting the ground running. And as we are right now, this is encouraging to see. Now, there are still injuries that linger, and there are still questions that are going to have to be answered. Like throughout the chat right now, everybody just wants Alex Kerfoot removed from the team. And I've seen a couple of comments in social media, digital media that covers the Leafs about the Leafs potentially acquiring somebody like a Paul Horvat, for instance. So there are questions there about how the team is going to augment itself. But in this moment, and that's all we're doing this season, is just staying in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
This is pretty fucking phenomenal, and I'm looking forward to the next game.
Well, I mean, the funny thing is that the Leafs, especially over the last month or so, they're playing with pace. They're playing with so much pace.
Right.
and so much effort. And part of that, I mean, I don't care what people in the chat say. Part of that is now checking line that has been newly formed with Kerfoot and Kampf and Engvall. Engvall was suspended one game for the high stick on Sean Dursey on Thursday. But, I mean, Kerfoot is not scoring goals like he did. He scored, I think, 13 last year. He's got 2 this year. Everybody looks at the $3.5 million, and that's what they look at. They say, "Oh, we're not getting results. We're not getting bang for the buck." They don't need him to score
The money.
big goals right now. Now, later on in the year, when the core 4 is not, I think they said last night in the broadcast, the Leafs have played 29 games, and the core 4 has scored a goal in 28 of them.
Mike, I don't think it's possible for that core 4 as a whole to not produce. One player will produce and cover the other guy's deficiencies for that limited amount of time. That core 4 is pretty bulletproof, and it has been since it was formed.
Right. So what they need their secondary players to do, and okay, I'll cover the gamut here. Michael Bunting is a secondary player. He's not a core 4 player. You watch what he did last night. Goes into the corners, goes behind the net, sets up Matthews, tips passes to Matthews, gets the puck to Nylander. He's a facilitator. Now, he doesn't have a bunch of goals. I don't hear a lot of people complaining about him because he's making $900,000. That's why. Now, will they complain when they signed him to a long-term extension and he's making $4 million? Of course they will.
Is Marner overpaid now?
Well, is Tavares overpaid? No, because Tavares, okay, coming off the injury last year, wasn't great, but he was good. Right. He, and he was a number 2 center. Now this year, it's like the Leafs have 2 number 1 centers again. Tavares is dominant. He's great in the faceoffs. He's a great playmaker. He's scoring goals.
Do you want to see more? Sorry, Mike, and we're kind of just going off, but again, this whole money thing, anytime I hear somebody say someone's overpaid, if Kerfoot scored 5 goals yesterday, or tomorrow, he's not overpaid. Like, it's always this idea that everything has to be, like, the production has to 100% every single day be commensurate with what you're making.
But Norm, then he'd only have 7. He'd only have 7 goals if he scored 5 yesterday. No, I mean,
right. So in the comments, it's not that he's not scoring goals or providing offense; it's the turnovers. Well, fuck, it's a hard game, and maybe he's gripping it too tight. Do you want to see more of a Bunting style game from Kerfoot, or is it that possible?
That's not his game. That's not his game. I mean, Bunting is a professional disturber of the highest. He's a Brendan Gallagher type,
right?
And he's a spark plug. I mean, honestly, tell me any Leaf fan that didn't love what Bunting was doing when he was sitting on the bench when Sean Dursey went down like he'd been shot by Oswald when Engvall hit him with the stick over the head, which it was a tap. It was not, Now you got to
Bring it on.
He got a game for it, and even Sheldon Keefe after the game said, that's not Pierre Engvall.
Badge of honor.
Right, Pierre Engvall doesn't play but Bunting was on the bench going like this, like like it was a clown show. He took a dive, which I think Dursey over embellished. There's nobody else on that team that's going to do that. Bunting is a chatterbox. He's a spark plug. He's somebody that's necessary. Kerfoot, in a different way, he provides. He's a good penalty killer. He's got great speed. He's a good playmaker. Now, okay, the JM in the chat's like $3.5 million for speed isn't good enough. I hear you. But last year he had 51 points. 51 points.
What do you do about JM? What do you do about it right now? So we think he sucks. He's shit. Trade him to somebody who's going to overvalue him. And what are we getting back? Again, like they're all overpaid, man. Really, if Kerfoot scores the game winner in the fucking Stanley Cup to win it all, is he overpaid? No.
And if everybody is saying that he is crap, what team out there is going to want him?
Yeah.
So, I know. He's not crap. He's a good player. I don't think he'll be back next year at $3.5 million. If anything, if they bring him back, it'd probably be a less salary for a year. But he'll probably get interest around the league if he goes free agent.
Anyway.
The situation is right now is that where can this team get better? And I'll tell you right now that obviously with the injury to Nick Robertson, they're going to get better on the left wing on the second line because, Mighty Mouse Dennis Mulligan, although he played pretty well yesterday, you can't have a guy who's 5'9" and 105 pounds or whatever he is, playing. Now he's got speed. He hustles. I have no problem with him as a depth player. But where I look at this team, and where I think that they're going to need to upgrade is up front. In terms of size and in terms of tenacity,
right?
And I really feel terrible for Nick Robertson because he's had 3 major injuries in 3 seasons. He's a talented kid. I think he's got the skill set to be a top 6 forward in this league. But I said this in my column yesterday in Hockey Buzz. Nick Robertson has got to, if this is possible, learn to adapt his game. Sort of like Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner, and you know this, Norm, from watching him in London, he has an incredible ability to not be where somebody tries to hit him. He's incredibly evasive. Now that's a sixth sense. Maybe that's something that can't
be Gretzky-esque.
Yeah, maybe that's something that can't be learned. But Nick Robertson, in 2 of the 3 injuries that he's had, one where Drake Batherson hit him into the wall and he hurt his knee, and the other one with Matt Roy, poleaxing him into the wall and he dislocates his shoulder. Both were him going into the corners or him going along the wall and taking contact from a bigger player. And he's got to avoid that. Now, in some instances you can't avoid it, but he's got to try. And the thing is, I think that the only way he's going to have a successful career is if he's not his brother Jason. He's not 6'2" and 200 pounds. He's 5'10" and 180 pounds. And there are bigger players out there. And I hope he comes back, and I hope he can adapt, and I hope he can play. But going forward, they probably need a left winger on that top 6 to play with Tavares and Marner. And there are a lot of guys out there that may be available that can do it. And you cannot depend on a 20-year-old like Matthew Nyes to step in at the end of the season and put him in the top 6. There are all too many things that can go wrong with that. If he comes in and he plays for you, that's fantastic. But you cannot depend on a 20-year-old kid coming out of the NCAA to step into the Stanley Cup playoffs. You need a veteran player to play with Tavares and Marner. And if you get that with the players that they have playing well in the bottom 6, then maybe they can finally advance and have some success.
This is the Convo. Norm in London, Mike in Buffalo. Thank you guys for your support. Like this content on YouTube. Why not subscribe to the channel so you can get into the timeline and you know what's coming and when. You never know when Mike and I will put together a sneak show. We have Convo shorts that do end up in community from time to time. And, as we go forward, we're going to produce more content. So thanks so much for being here. Oh, make sure to subscribe to your podcast platform of choice, because the show does get uploaded there, and then you can listen to it again after you've been inundated with our ugly mugs through the YouTube channel. It is interesting, Mike, that Nick Robertson he's snake bitten, right? This guy he's hurt because of activity on the ice and his encounters with players who are bigger, and obviously being at the NHL, it's just such a fast-paced game, and those are the breaks. But if Nick Robertson goes in the corner and lays some dude out, we're going to go nuts. We're going to love it and go, hey, this is, and he might be small and he's walking on, he's on thin ice, but we love it. So he's trying to endear himself to the group, by extension to the fans, and then he gets hurt. And now, we're questioning whether the kind of game that either he's playing unwittingly or maybe attempting to play is not suited for him based on his physicality. Just goes back to the idea that the Leafs need guys who can play this role and play it effectively and be able to rise to the occasion, not because they have more bravado or mentally tougher. It's just that they're capable of doing that.
Well, last night, and I said this during the game, if Wayne Simmons was lobbying for more game time, more ice time, last night's performance probably should get him benched for the next 2 weeks, at least. He he took
Oh my God.
a stupid retaliatory penalty
Mike,
after Matthews got
what is done, Mike? Come on, man.
well, let me finish. I'll tell you. He took a retaliatory penalty when Matthews got high stuck,
This guy's
and
funny.
that took away a power play, and then Calgary scored on the 4-on-4,
Yeah.
and then he takes a penalty, another dumb penalty, and they scored a power play goal. So yeah, no, okay, you have to be tough, you have to be physical, but you also have to be smart. It's like, you go back in the day when the Leafs, went out and got a guy like Ryan Hullwig, to be the toughest. And the guy took dumb penalties, stupid penalties, and hurt his team. Whereas a guy like Colton Orr, okay, he was a fighter, he was tough, but he was smart. He didn't take dumb penalties. And when you're a competitive team, when you're in a playoff situation, which unless it's really bad, and Wayne Simmons is not going to be playing regular time, he'll be playing fourth line at best. When the playoffs come around, you need guys who are big and tough and smart. And Wayne Simmons was not smart last night.
Okay, so I mean, we're watching someone's career circle the toilet bowl in Wayne Simmons, and I'm not disrespecting the man. I remember him back from the Owen Sound attack days. Great cat. At peak, it's a prototypical tough player who could score and throw them and do the kind. Like at peak, Wayne Simmons of peak now with this team would be beautiful. I would love it. But for him just to come in for just about 7 minutes and just take a couple penalties, and you got to push back with Calgary. I'd prefer to have somebody who's a little bit more of a contributor play that role, right? As opposed to, hey, Wayne, we need you next week against X team. Here's your compartmentalized assignment. Boom. No, I'd rather the guys that are on the team and regular contributors and have more skin in the game to be the kinds of guys who can offer up that pushback. And again, nobody's asking for knuckles to break orbital bones. This is about playing a tougher style of hockey, right? Or at least having a contingent on that group who can play that kind of tough hockey, and it affects the rest of the team in a positive way because it's there, and it really lights a spark under everyone's ass. So with Wayne Simmons, I cut the guy some slack. He's just hanging around, and as well as I do that it was a toss up for him to just retire. But
I wish that Wayne Simmons was the Wayne Simmons of 5 years ago, because that is the player that the Leafs could definitely use right now, but he's not. And that's unfair. I mean, he's giving them what he has. And I'm just saying he wants to contribute. He wants to be physical. He wants to be somebody who sticks up for his team and his teammates and their best player. I just think he just did it in the wrong way and got caught on it. And they need somebody smarter, probably somebody who is, can keep up with the pace of the game. And that's probably the biggest problem here is that, Wayne is trailing the play now, so he's catching up, and
right.
There are things that maybe he would have gotten away with 4 or 5 years ago that he's not getting away with now. So, I mean, I look at this team, and everybody's going to be interested based on the way that they're playing right now. Before, I think it's March the 3rd is the deadline. Where can they improve? What can they do? Who can they go after?
Hey, Mike, listen, man, for real, bro. Like where is it? Oh, I've lost it. Michael Matthew, OG from the beginning, wants you to stop, or us to stop ragging on the Leafs when they're 3rd overall. So,
everything's beautiful.
No.
Wonderful. Let's end the show now. It's like throw roses and throw candy.
No, I get it all the time, and I see it all the time. Message, Norm, Kyle Dubas really should be in contention for GM of the year. It's December 11th, right? Again, the team, like we've been down this road before. Like William Nylander's 5 points. He's finally broken out as a bona fide superstar. We've been down this road before, guys. It's great. We're happy. We're not pissed off. We love that we talk about the Maple. We still do this, and we do this for free because we love the Maple Leafs and we love spending time with you guys. But I mean, we're not the jersey wearing fanboys. That's not us. Like we love the team just as much or more than anybody else, but we're looking at it from a different perspective. And it's I preface this show with they're 8-0-2 in the last 10. They haven't lost in a fucking month. The team is awesome. But we can dive into the minutia of the team and the inner workings of the team and talk about it and be critical about what we're seeing, not because we loathe this group and we are enjoying the ride. It's because clearly we know that the end result will be failure again if things don't change because we've been down this road before. Not to get on a diatribe or anything, we love everybody, but we are enjoying the ride. It's just these are things that we need to talk about, and I think a lot of people are in agreement. Just too high, too low. Let's this is the moment right now, Mike.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I get the criticism, but like everybody wants to feel good about the team right now because they're having success.
What's wrong? And sure, go
And
for it.
there's nothing wrong with that. And I mean, it's nice to watch if you're a fan. It's nice to on Saturday night turn on Hockey Night in Canada and watch the team perform and watch them win.
Right.
Okay, I agree. That's fine. But what I'm saying is they're not perfect. They can be better. Sheldon Keefe says that. Kyle Dubas says that. Fans are fans. Fans just like Norm, do you remember back in the day in the 70s and the 80s, that group of fans that, because the only time that they would see them was on Saturday night and a Hockey Night in Canada. And then you had a sizable portion of the Leaf fan base who, if they won on Saturday night and didn't win the rest of the time, they were happy. They had their 12-pack of Molson. They were sitting in front of their TV on their Barca Lounger, and they were watching the Leafs. And if the Leafs won, no matter if they sucked or not,
right,
they were satisfied.
O'Toole's was packed, Mike, after the game.
Yeah, so I mean, I get that, but honestly, there is a large segment of this fan base that wants to see them win a Stanley Cup before they croak. And honestly, for this team to have success,
right,
they're going to have some, add to a good team to make them a great team, because they're in the first round likely going to face a Tampa or a Boston. And that team is going to be bigger and tougher and more experienced and had success in winning in the playoffs when it counts. So that's all I'm saying. They're good. They're very good, but they're in a division where they're playing teams that are as good or better. And maybe goaltending, maybe that big save that Jack Campbell couldn't make, or Freddie Anderson couldn't make, that Matt Murray or Ilya Samsonov could make, will be the difference. But I don't think it's just that. I think the intangibles out there, this team still needs to improve in a couple areas to improve their chances to win.
So the Bruins and Tampa don't scare 09 Max. Really? They don't?
Say that again?
So again, the Bruins don't scare me.
You're Max, you're delusional. You're delusional.
Love you, Max, but
I mean, okay. Tampa Bay is not playing great in the regular season. They don't have to. All they have to do is get into the tournament. The one thing that game last Saturday teaches you, that team can turn it on like that. The Leafs outplayed them in the first two periods, and early in the third period, they got 2 power plays. They scored 2 power play goals. They took over the game.
Yeah,
they can do that because they have Stamkos and Kucherov and Hedman and all these guys who have won cups, who are great players.
They beat the Bruins this season, and that's not, Max. We love you, but that's not.
They beat the Bruins 2-1, where they were basically playing, they were basically playing an all defensive effort, blocking shots and doing everything in the third period. I mean, please, that was not a dominant performance.
So the Bruins dumped the Leafs on back-to-back occasions in the playoffs. Tampa dumped the fucking Leafs on back-to-back several occasions in the playoffs. So again, that's the litmus test. It's not now. It's getting there and getting there in the best of shape you possibly can, making the alterations. And the welcoming additions that you believe will help you to this time get to where you want to go. And the thing is, Mike, the goal for this team is obviously the playoffs and winning the first round. Then what the fuck happens, right? Then what the then you know at some point the skill's going to wane. So at some point the skill's going to tire. That's where you need that extra gear. That's where you need the physicality. You need the guys who are going to do the dirty work, the guys who are going to go that extra mile. And you know the top performing dudes, they need to put themselves in a position where they can realize these possibilities of themselves. So this is great. We love it. We're on board. I'd rather be talking this way and get fewer listeners and viewers than to be ragging on a team that has, lost 10 straight and getting, tons of hits and lots of interaction because everybody's freaking out. So again, I'm willing to put the podcast secondary to the Leafs' primary success. So yeah, we're just talking about how things can be evolved and shaped better for this group to position it for greater success when it really counts. Before we go, Mike, just Connor Timmins. So 3 games with the Maple Leafs, made his debut for the Buds against Dallas. Uh, picked up a point, hasn't really looked out of place. 13 and a half minutes last night. About a half hour's worth of play in the Dallas and the Kings game where the team was, just bona fide amazing and shutting those their opponents out. Connor Timmins, is this guy a bit of an X factor or is he just kind of a placeholder?
I don't know about a placeholder, but I think they're going to give him an opportunity. I mean, it's a nice problem to have that when Riley comes back, which I don't, the one thing that them winning as much as they are right now is doing is, they can take their time with Riley coming back. Excuse me. They can take their time because they're playing so well. But Timmins has stepped in. He's played a few games. He played with Victor Mete, and then Mete got hurt. When you have TJ Brody playing on your defensive pairing, he can cover up for Justin Hall, so he definitely can cover up for Connor Timmins, and he's like a safety net. And he's played well with Brody. I think that he's somebody who will be a 6'7" defenseman. He's a right-hand shot. He's got ability. His problem has been throughout his career is staying healthy. So I think they'll give him a chance. And like I said, it's like I look at their defense right now. Right, if Riley comes back, Jordy Ben is apparently on the mend.
Right.
Victor Mete goes back down to the Marlies.
Right.
And you have 7 defensemen, with Timmins being your 7th, rotating in and out.
Right.
Of the lineup, or that would be 8 defensemen with Ben. Then you're not in a bad position. Maybe you're even in a good enough position that you don't have to trade for a defenseman. Now, I'd be in favor of trading for somebody physical like a Luke Shen, whose the name has been out there a bunch of times.
Yeah,
but
I've seen it in the chat a few times today too.
But you don't have to. And
right.
And I don't think Jake Muzzin is ever playing again.
No.
I hope I'm wrong. I really, he was spotted, jogging around the rink at Ford Performance Center. I really do hope that he does. Right. But I think that if they, Sandin and Liljegren playing as well as they have, Giordano and Hall playing 25 minutes a night because Riley and Brody weren't there. You add Riley and Brody back in, you have Ben, you have Timmins there.
Maybe, is that your group then? That's it.
And that might be your group.
Okay.
That might be your group.
Okay, that's their group, and in the chat, I think Alfred O'Rourke brought up that it's Dubas's time to shine, right? If he wants to win GM of the year, make the deals that put this team over the top. Easier said than done. And so if that's your group, Mike, because I'm looking at it right now, and with everything kind of rolling along, and Justin Hall. He's a powder keg and he's a pincushion, but I've been on the Justin Hall train all bloody season long, and I know Sheldon Keefe really likes him. He's putting in the work, and it's better to have guys who want to get out there and do their 20 minutes a night, make their fucking mistakes, but be heroic in moments, and have to go against other guys who can do the exact same thing or better, as opposed to if we're gonna we're gonna extract as much as we can from someone who really can't bring you the goods. That's a problem. So if the defensive group is healthy as a complete unit, and there are a couple of guys chomping at the bit to get in to show their worth, that's fantastic. That allows, and if the goaltending situation stays healthy, you got two guys who can on any given night give you a shutout. Then it gives Kyle Dubas that focus of, augmenting the second two lines or the line 3 and line 4, and make sure that there's some added toughness, some added sandpaper to off spell the top guys from time to time and support them the rest of the time. Mike, last word to you, and we'll get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the talk right now about them going out and, there's a friendship between Austin Matthews and Patrick Kane, so that immediately means they're going to go after Patrick Kane. They could use an upgraded third line center. So are they going to be in on Dylan Larkin or Ryan O'Reilly or Bo Horvat? It's like, okay, it's hot stove time. We're getting, the trade deadline is March the 3rd. Cool your jets. I think some of that is realistic maybe later on when we've sort of filter out what teams are not in the mix and what are in the mix. St. Louis is in the mix for playoffs. So is Vancouver. So is Detroit. They're not trading those guys. Now, maybe closer to March the 3rd, they might. But I don't think those are the moves that the Leafs are making. And I don't think those are the moves the Leafs need to make. They need to get big. They need to get tough. And they need to have a little more experience. And if they do that, then they improve their chances.
Anything else?
That's it.
On with the day. Yes?
Yes.
I'm just taking cues from you now, man.
Yep. Bills, Jets. Aaron Judge is signed, so all is good in
hey, listen, but that's nothing. The
Blue Jays got
Kevin Kiermaier.
You got Kevin Kiermaier, so you got a Gold Glove fielding 210 hitter. There you go. Wonderful.
That's awesome. And hey, he replaces Teoscar's 30 home runs too easily, right? So I guess, and I'm just trying to make light of it. Nobody would turn away a guy who with that prowess in the outfield if he's completely healthy. But like the Jays need offense, and that's not a guy you can rely on for offense. As a fourth outfielder or somebody who may have to, play a stretch of games while there's an injury. I mean, you could do a lot worse, but, as a Blue Jays fan right now, I obviously want to see them make some adjustments and some improvements. However, it's not that easy. It really isn't. Hey, Mike, you enjoy the day. Thanks for all you do. HockeyBuzz.com. There's a lot of great writers over there. For my money, you are number one. OG's Converts. I'm sure you concur. Like the content, subscribe to the channel. We'll see you in a week's time or maybe sooner. For Mike, I'm Norm.